carefully how those 5 people in the world that are geniuses respond and how they behave. And there's literature on that. So I started to shape this complex character together and used that. It was pretty intense though. He was really looking quite carefully at the background. There was also, he was a product of the 80s, when there was this type of research being done by governments here in Russia in particular, and Canada, where the best scientists were taken to these strange places and given endless money to do weird things like test people with LSD. And that's pretty well documented now, and Walter would solve that. So I read really widely on that. It was a pretty thorough research, and I'm glad I did, because then having to pick up lots of different versions of him, having to do flashbacks to that period and flash forward from there, all that research in the beginning paid off for me perfectly. Thank you.
At what point did you guys realize the show was going to be beyond just the first set of characters that we're introduced to? Did you have inklings in season 1? Because there was that scene where Walter had talks to Walter in the mental asylum for a moment. Did that, clue you into that fact, or did the writers tell you? Do you remember that moment when you thought, "Oh, this show's getting really deep"?
We didn't know that we'd go this far. We knew in fact season 1 that there was an alternate universe in some character. We knew alternate existed. That was all we knew. Nowhere in our wildest dreams did we believe that we would cross over and there would be alternate versions of Astrid and Olivia and Nina. We just didn't imagine. We probably thought of Walter and maybe Walter's wife. That would be it. So it was the beginning of season 3 that we went to the alternate universe.
Or was it the end of 2?
End of 2.
End of 2, and it was like just an episode or 2 before we got those scripts that we realized we were going to go over there and see the whole world. And we didn't know anything really about how different the characters were, so we had a very small amount of time to kind of prepare and figure out how we were going to do that, because it was really a surprise for us.
Yeah, but it was, look, okay, these guys are great. They occasionally bring in a writer called Akiva Goldsman.
Yeah.
And Akiva comes in and he stirs the pot, he throws in these huge arcs. And they go, oh, we don't know what's coming. I promise you we don't know what's coming. But it certainly keeps us alive. But as Jasika said, we'll sometimes just have a few days' notice on one of those major ships. The best one was, we did a musical episode in season 2. All it was, production gets on the phone. Can you go in and put down a tape at so-and-so sound, singing tape? What? Why would we do that? And I said, yeah, just go in, you're going to put down this, and you're going to... So we went in there, isn't that funny? And then it turns out this musical episode, and they're the 2 best singers in the company, Jasika and Lance. They hadn't given them songs. So we said, well, you've got to make it a musical, you've got to give them a song. So they were recorded. It was hilarious. And they were you're doing a musical.
Are you going to sing right now? You got out of your chair.
Jasika Nicole show. No one knows what that means except her. Jasika and I always make up musical versions of things. She's very naughty on set.
Somebody is projecting.
Very naughty indeed, I know. So back to you, sir.
Go back to the outline more about this. We do have a question in the left bleachers from Dan. Now, is that our right or is that our left? There we are.
My question's for Jasika. First of all, I'd like to say I really love your website. I've been there.
Thank you.
I like your artwork as well. Could that be incorporated into one of the asterisks?
Oh, that is a great question. And when we were doing season 1 and season 2 in particular, when Astrid wasn't doing a whole lot, she was kind of in the background writing notes, and I was actually drawing all the time in these notebooks that we had just laying around the set. And so at the end of the seasons, the props people would kind of gather all the notebooks together, and we would flip through this sketchbook that I had drawn through for like 10 months or so. And at one point I thought, maybe her babysitting Walter isn't actually providing any work to this lab or to the case. She's just doodling to get through the day. and get home and have a glass of wine and be like, oh my God, my boss is so crazy. So I think that that's definitely a possibility. If that's going to be scripted at some point, I don't know, but there's been a lot of artwork incorporated to my characterization of Astrid.
Kind of cool, even if one of the investigations that the team goes on at someone's house, some of your work was featured on the wall or something like that.
No, I know. There was one episode where Olivia is trying to remember a guy's face, and she draws this beautiful picture in a notebook, and I was like, since when is Olivia like this incredible artist? Not that that's bad, but it was just funny. So Astrid could have been the girl that comes in. She's like, so how big was his nose? That's great.
Right. This opportunity worked out.
Yeah.
We got one on the floor from Rob, mic 3, mid-floor. Oh, nice costume, Rob. Oh, my goodness.
Alright, so this is for John. I was wondering if it's you or the writers who are more coming up with the names you give for Astrid. If it's just kind of you having to do it.
Rob, the ones that go to air are the ones they come up with. Have I seen enough? We make up lots of other ones.
There's a whole list of names that don't make it to
but sometimes we throw one in a rehearsal just to see what the effect is. Like, oh, you can't say that.
Once Jack came up to me and he goes, is it okay if I call you Afro? Is there anything better? And I said, no, go right ahead, and he did it. And nobody laughed because we shoot in Canada, and they were like, everybody's so polite and respectful. It's the Canadian way.
Guys, if we go to another question from Connor in the upper left. Connor, oh, he's on mic 6, so there.
I've got a question for John Noble. You've done a couple of scenes where you have to take LSD and act really, really strange. How do you get yourself ready for that?
I think he's undercover, don't you? I ask others what it's like. I say to other nameless actors, what's it like being on LSD? And they tell me. I research it on Google. That's all.
We're in mid-floor with Lisa on mic 4.
Hi, thank you both for coming. My question relates kind of to yesterday's panel. Denise Crosby was talking about how for supporting characters, particularly when the few lines they have are sort of techno-speak and don't really advance the character, she has to fill in the white space between the words in the script. So I was wondering how, for Astrid in particular, for that character, and for the supporting characters that you play, John, what do you fill in for the characters that isn't in the script?
It's so intelligent, isn't it? White space. My God.
I like that phrasing.
It's Denise. I'm going to tell her.
I know, she's very smart. That is a really great question. You know, for myself, it's really tricky to do that because as soon as I start to invent too much of a storyline, something comes out like in the next episode and it's like, oh, actually it's this. So when you have so few details to go on, you want to fill in that space, but then you don't want to have to like erase it all at some point. And I would run into that a few times in the first season where I was like, you know, trying to connect these little dots, and I had my own storyline going, and then I don't even remember exactly what it was, but then the script came out, and I had this idea that like, that Astrid didn't have a family or something, and that's why she had latched onto Walter and felt so good to have this person to kind of take care of and to take care of her too. And then it turns out she has a dad, and I was like, crap. I mean, she has a dad, but then you never got to see him, so then I didn't know what he was like. And so it's this really weird kind of line that you have to walk, you know, not giving too much voice to something that doesn't have a voice, but still, you know, having enough of a presence that's there. So I just really rely on the relationships and focusing on how she interacts with the people that she's in the scene with when she doesn't have a lot of other, you know, stuff that, like you said, is moving the plot forward. And I think that ended up being this really lovely relationship. Like, I don't think that it was necessarily written that way, but John and I became friends off set, and that kind of bled into our scenes together, and we would, you know, kind of riff off of each other and create these moments. And the writers totally ran with that. So I hope that answers your question.
Anything to add, John?
What Jasika does is, and I work with her on this, that if I'm doing something, I will constantly flick a reference to her. It's not scripted. That's what we've developed over 4 years. And from the beginning we said, let's be involved in this scene, because they weren't writing in specific stuff for Astrid. So we started from the beginning a little bit to say, Astrid would be doing part of the experiment with me. So we actually built that up, and as she said, we ran with it. And you know, you've got to stay with it, because at some stage the camera might come across just to cut to you to see what your reaction is. You don't have to invent a whole subtext, but you've got to concentrate all the time. And when I watch really great actors work, you can see them in the back of the scene and they'll still be totally present in the scene. And I think that that's what we have to do as professional actors and what we try to do.
We got mic 5 on the floor left with Corbin.
Hi, this is for John. I've noticed in a few past episodes, there's 2 that were like in the far future, and I'm wondering how this will affect season 5 if you allow attention to this. And I think you're like the best actor ever.
He's good as good. It's a great question. Yeah, thanks, mate. What we think will happen is that we've already indicated to our audience the way ahead by episode 19. In episode 19, we flashed forward 20-something years into a world with a common enemy, where the observers around the world, and we became the insurgents. We believe that will be our season, our final season. It will be the Fringe team having to fight as insurgents against this other power. I think it's a brilliant concept, and for the first time we'll be forced to unite and to defend each other and support each other against a common enemy. Is that the impression you have as well?
Yeah, it's almost like all the research and the information and the knowledge that they've accumulated over the past 4 seasons, they're going to have to use that to fight for their lives and for the lives of the universe. And it's going to be really cool. If you saw episode 19 and saw the flash into the future with the observers who are, you know, all powerful and have totally taken that power and turned it evil. It's a really cool concept. And it's so great because the observers seemed like these sweet little puppies when we first met them. They were so great and they knew everything and they tried to save Peter. And then something happens, I don't know what it is, but everything goes haywire. And so it's the Fringe team that